original.
Attention, you are about to hear the captivating voice of an icon in the movie industry. You have heard him and seen him in performances in over 140 films. He's met and influenced many world leaders, and now he's about to tell you how to unite the America he loves.
That job's filled.
Unique. Brilliant. And unpredictable. Robert Davi is a Renaissance man who writes, directs, sings, and does it all with excellence.
Yes, okay, we're all very impressed, but let's get on with it now.
Robert Davi believes he should use his voice to both repay and help unite America, the America that made his dreams come true.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Robert Davi Show. Good day. Mike Gary in for Robert Davi, out on assignment. Thank you so much for joining us here on CRN Digital Talk Radio and all of our affiliates around the world. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/CRN Talk. I'm joined with the great John Merchant. John, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you, Mike?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I want to start things out with I think the last time that you and I sat together, John, we talked about that terrible story about that young woman who was the van life Instagram woman who was missing and then found dead. And we talked a little bit about how missing white woman syndrome was a thing. I got some guff about that, John.
Oh.
I got some pushback from my female friends.
Okay.
They say that regardless of the way that the media is handling this, the sensationalism, that at heart, this is a case involving this Gabby Petrillo. This is a case about domestic violence, and that when you frame it as a missing white woman syndrome and you become quite cynical in that viewpoint, you minimize domestic violence.
Very
domestic
true.
violence is a terrible, terrible epidemic.
Yes.
I mean, throughout human history.
Yeah.
And so I want to apologize for those remarks, categorically. I mean, two things can be true at the same time, dialectical thinking. I mean, yes, perhaps this case has been over-sensationalized by the media for economic reasons, but also we should note that domestic violence is very real and that it should be talked about not in a flippant manner. Now, to pivot from that, let's talk about another missing white woman.
I see what you did there.
That's what we call pivot in the business, folks. Let's talk about Dianne Feinstein on the milk carton. Dianne Feinstein, senior senator from California, hasn't been seen in weeks, if not months. One of the longest-serving senators, took office in 1992. I remember 1992. That was a good year.
Very great year.
Good year for music and movies.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that? Almost 6 terms in the United States Senate. She authored, of course, the 1994 federal assault weapons ban, which has been sunsetted in the Bush administration. And what's scary about this, John, is she's a powerful voice, not only in the Senate, but also on very powerful committees within, including the Senate Rules Committee and, most importantly, the Senate Intelligence Committee. So she's one of the few members of Congress that actually gets to go into the SCIF and hear highly sensitive, highly classified information regarding our national security and security around the world. And, I mean, full disclosure here, I am a registered Democrat. Robert Davi might punch me in the ribs for that, but this is what's the great thing about talk radio and the great thing about this network, CRN, is that we have diverging viewpoints, and we can, speak to that without being disagreeable. I take issue with the way that the modern Democratic Party has moved to the left. And I think it's important to have centrist Democrats in Congress, but so long as they're able to function.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing reporting, the mainstream media, and I use that, that term not in a pejorative manner, but the mainstream media has kind of gone to sleep on this story about Dianne Feinstein being absent from Congress. The most recent reporting is that she took a leave of absence from Congress for a few weeks to tend to her ill husband. But even still, she has not been seen in public in Washington, D.C., or in her home district in San Francisco. there has been some pretty wacky theories out there, and we can talk about it because it's kind of fun. That perhaps she's either A, already incapacitated to some manner, or B, she's already passed.
Yeah.
And the wacky story is that some people, Weekend at Bernie style, kept her on ice waiting for the recall election to be over because, as we've talked about before, and as Robert has talked about before, if Republicans, specifically if Larry Elder, did secure the governorship here in California due to the recall, and Dianne Feinstein is either A, incapacitated, or B, sadly passes away, he would constitutionally, under this California state constitution, be able to appoint her successor. I mean, of course, It would have to be approved by the legislature, and so what would happen is that he'd appoint an unpalatable, probably conservative Republican to her Senate seat. The legislature would not vote to confirm, and so that seat would stand vacant. And the implications behind that would be that a 50-50 Senate would now become a 50-49 Senate, and the Republican Party would take control of the Senate. Mitch McConnell will be back in charge.
Right.
Republicans would be back in charge of all the committees as well. It would be a major policy shift and a major political disaster for Democrats. I don't necessarily buy that she's on ice somewhere, but this speaks to a broader issue. I was driving on the freeway the other day, John, and I'm saying this is a registered Democrat, a centrist Democrat. Saw a woman, she had a very big, large sticker on both on the back of her car and also on the side window that was like kind of an etching of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it was kind of like a tribute to the quote-unquote notorious RBG.
Right.
Got my back up a little bit, John, because where we are now with the 6-3 conservative court, if Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who knew she had cancer, knew that she was very long in the tooth, she did not retire during Barack Obama's term, allowing Barack Obama to appoint her successor. Dianne Feinstein, who, I mean, God bless her, we can talk about her flaws later on in the show. She's in her late 70s.
Right.
And there's been reporting out of her staff that, she has become irritable, that she's become forgetful, that oftentimes, I mean, based on just on, quoting reporting here, that sometimes she doesn't know where she is. And so my question is, I mean, this can, you can talk about this. I mean, Strom Thurmond on the other side of the aisle. I mean, Strom Thurmond, we can not necessarily, I'm the biggest fan of him, but I mean, he stayed, or Richard Byrd out of West Virginia, who's more of a moderate. He stayed until he was 93. And it seems like they're doing this to, cutting off their nose to spite their face, where these politicians, these Supreme Court justices stay so long in office that they do it to the detriment of their own party.
Right. Yeah.
So my question, John, is it ego?
It has to be. It has to be ego mixed with power. Like they have to be synonymous with one another. You know what I mean? Because it's like when you have that much influence, it makes me wonder, who are you indebted to, right? Like, are you, do you have somebody in your pockets? And we hear the stories of, crooked politicians and, the lobbyists that are out there. But, we know the cliche that power corrupts. So for me, it's like you being in that long, like you mentioned, to the detriment of your party. What is it that you look to gain at being 80 years old serving in a political seat, whether it be Supreme Court or a Senate seat or whatever the case may be? What do you look to gain? And it has to be everything to do with ego and maintaining that political power or influence at some degree. That's my speculation.
Yeah, I mean, being a United States Senator, it's like being part of the King's Court. I mean, you are pampered. You have drivers, you have security, you have all the kind of institutional ceremonial trappings.
Very much so.
I mean, and also your staff becomes, sycophants to you.
But I mean, you have to have like a great retirement plan coming out of that.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean? Like, so those, if that is your motivation, like if I am receiving all those benefits, like let me step down and allow somebody that's new and refreshing to get in there to groom them. You know what I mean? Other than, kind of spending my last days not allowing a successor to come in that will be able to, I can pass that torch to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which leaves your party vulnerable.
But also there's a flip side to this coin. I mean, I've worked with people here in the radio business, hosts, talent, who would broadcast into their 90s, and they were fine. And who are we to say, hey, you need to stop doing what you love. Perhaps these, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Dianne Feinstein, others, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Thurman, they actually loved what they were doing.
Right.
They loved the process. They loved the camaraderie with their staff and with their fellow legislators. Who are we to say, hey, step aside so for the greater good, quote unquote, our greater good?
Right.
I mean, we've also seen stories of people who've worked all their lives, retired, and then died a week later.
Yeah, very true.
But from a political standpoint, I mean, these people are they're professional politicians. And so, I mean, of course, they're going to have people in their ear saying, hey, maybe now is the right time to go.
And I think that's the difference between what we do versus being a politician, to where us being up here, we're not, I can't dictate being taxed on parking in Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, clearly it's much different, and I think it's a lot easier to groom someone to take over what we do, whereas if you are accustomed to legislation going a particular way, or the current state that we're in where everything is kind of 50-50 or kind of leaning towards one particular area, it's like, where do you go from there?
But does the public, I mean, perhaps, let's say Dianne Feinstein does have, some sort of serious illness.
Yeah.
Does the public have the right to know that? I mean, she is a public figure. She's accountable to the voters every 6 years.
I believe we do. I mean, you're a public servant, essentially. Like, I believe that we should know that, so we can prep ourselves moving forward.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
Dianne Feinstein, she is... She has made mistakes in her career legislatively, notably supporting the Iraq War, supporting FISA, supporting all sorts of different surveillance programs, not to mention she pretty much let the Night Stalker operate for a couple of years because of her incompetence as mayor of San Francisco. We'll talk more about this after the break, Davi.
Have you heard about Vine to Bar chocolate? It's the winemaker's chocolate, the world's first chocolate made with well-vined Chardonnay marc from the beautiful coastal vineyards of North America. Gently pressed grapes are harvested after juicing, dried and finely milled and carefully blended into the finest dark chocolate. The Chardonnay marc contains highly beneficial grape nutrients, flavonols, and has a natural sweetness that flavors the luscious dark chocolate. Mouth-watering, flavorful, delectable dark chocolate goodness with Chardonnay sweetness and beneficial nutrients. And it's alcohol-free, too. It's Vine to Bar chocolate. Order some today at vinetobar.com. That's VINETOBAR.com. Cold shipped to your door, it's Vine to Bar. Vine to Bar chocolate. Visit us at vinetobar.com.
When you really want Italian food, you have got to get to Columbo's. Columbo's Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club, Colorado Boulevard, Eagle Rock. It's that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Today, it seems so hard to enjoy just a little bit of easy. So much of life seems to get in the way. But fear not, seekers of fabulous food and fun and thrill. Columbo's is Southern California's answer to Easy Street. Great grub with some of the finest steaks, the freshest fish awaiting for you to devour. Did I mention Columbo's family Italian recipes? Columbo's spaghetti bolognese, their chicken pesto ravioli, magnifico, and of course, the world's greatest meatballs. I can go on. But why go on when you can go on over to Columbo's and experience delicious and easy for yourself? Columbo's, of course, that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Columbo's, mangia bene.
I'm Al Simon, 91 years young. I created Balance 7 20 years ago. At 67, I went to see the doctor for the first time in my life and found that I had medical problems. He told me that was normal for my age. I don't believe God intended us to be sick and old. I decided to find something to bring my health back. For 10 years, I studied pH and how important it is to the human system. Balance 7 gave me back what I lost by getting older. I no longer get out of bed with a joint discomfort. Balance 7 can do for you what it has done for me and many others. In 3 days' time, you'll feel more energy, less joint discomfort, and clarity of thinking. No doctor or hospital can do what Balance 7 can do for you. Balance 7 is the key to unlocking the healthy immune system. Bring your body back to balance. Order now. Receive free shipping with the code word AL. Go to balance7.com. That's balance7.com. Order now and get your free shipping and a free gift with your order. Go to balance7.com. Use the code word AL.
Robert Davi.
I want you to know this is nothing personal. It's purely business.
We're back. Mike Airy sitting in for Davi on an assignment. Mr. Davi involved in a very interesting and special project that he will be speaking to shortly. Stay tuned to that. Another political news, Dianne Feinstein's absence notwithstanding, is that right now we are in the middle of a legislative battle right now. Not so much necessarily between Republicans and Democrats, specifically in the House of Representatives, but more so about rank-and-file centrist Democrats and the Squad. The Squad, of course, being, I guess their Julius Caesar would be kind of probably Bernie Sanders, but the most prevalent ones in the House, of course, right now are AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and others.
Mm-hmm. Maxine Waters thrown in there?
I think Maxine Waters, she's been in for so long.
Okay.
I mean, I think probably ideologically 100%.
Yeah.
But she wasn't kind of part of that new wave of young women of color who kind of swept into office on the heels of Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
Maxine Waters is a story for another day.
Yeah, just a whole nother day.
Got some inside information about her. So we're seeing right now there's two packages being debated in both the Senate and the House, but mostly it's stalled in the House at this point, concerning the $1.8 trillion infrastructure bill coupled with the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill by the Biden administration, which would provide funding for all sorts of social programs, and this would be to be paid for by raising revenue through tax increases on both wealthy Americans, those making over $400,000 a year, also raising corporate taxes on large corporations who often pay no taxes whatsoever. I'm looking at you, Amazon.
Yeah. And
also other tax policies, including lowering the estate tax exemption from $11.7 million to $3.7 million, eliminating the capital gains step-ups. And interesting enough, as an aside, incidentally, we saw AOC on the Senate, on the floor of the House of Representatives during a appropriations bill voting for funding, I think, a $1 billion funding package for Israeli security, specifically for the Iron Dome anti-missile system. And AOC, she voted not yes, not no. The rest of the Squad voted no. She voted present and then wept afterwards.
Okay, as in tears?
Tears, they fell like rain.
Okay, all right.
And when asked about this, why, first of all, because she's been very, very critical about Palestinian rights and about Israeli human rights abuses, allegedly, towards Palestinians, about she's called Israeli a de facto apartheid state. And we're not going to debate that here, but if she really felt that strongly, why did she vote present and not no on this funding package? And for anybody who, reads a newspaper or watches the news, or just follows politics tangentially, we know that she's got her eye on larger office, perhaps even governor of New York, perhaps even U.S. senator from New York. And so obviously, the Jewish American and Israeli lobby, especially in New York City, who's got a large population of American Jews, she can't be seen as anti-Israel in a statewide race. So here's AOC. AOC, the paragon of virtue, the paragon of sticking to one's principles, folding in face of a political reality, taking a tactical choice rather than a principled choice.
Right.
Will that hurt her, John?
Later on down the line, it will come back, and she will have to answer for it.
From her left flank.
From her left, yes. The constituents, if you will. And I don't think it'll hurt her. Like, hypothetically speaking, if she was looking to run for a presidential seat, whether it be the next term or the following, I believe it will come up and she'll get pushback on it, but I believe that she could possibly recover from it. And I think that this, marking myself present is an attempt to be diplomatic, but again, as you mentioned, if you have a track record of having a hard stance on the rights of the people, it's like you kind of almost have to stick with that. You know what I mean? And it makes you question or wonder, like, what is your agenda?
Well, I mean, this is like Tom Cotton voting present for a border wall funding appropriations bill.
It's insane.
And this is my problem with the modern Democratic Party, especially the Squad.
Yeah.
I agree with a lot of their positions, but I disagree with the way that they message themselves and also how they hold the rest of the Democratic Party hostage. There's this phrase I like to use a lot that goes as follows. Never let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And AOC and others in the Squad have said that they will torpedo the $1.8 trillion infrastructure bill unless it is tied to this $3.6 trillion budget resolution package. It's either all or nothing. That's not what compromise is about.
No, not at all.
That's not what representational government's about.
Not at all.
It's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
And the right is just as guilty as this as the left.
Yeah.
But the left, because they control both houses of Congress and the White House, they have a chance to actually legislate something, to actually do something. This $1.8 trillion infrastructure package is important.
Right.
I mean, I just had a flat tire last week. I mean, you drive around.
A lot.
You know how it is here.
Yeah. Just drove, what was it, probably about 200 miles over the weekend? You know? So, yeah.
I'm 98 miles a day, baby. That's my commute.
Sheesh.
Round trip, 98 miles.
Yeah.
I can't afford to spend hundreds of dollars a month on maintenance, much less gas, because that's how normally the Highway Trust Fund is funded.
Right.
Through the gas
tax.
taxes.
Yep.
So AOC, what are you doing? Are you here for working people like John and I? Or are you here for your own advancement, your own ego, your own narcissism?
Right.
I mean, I have respect. I disagree vehemently with some of the things that Ilhan Omar says.
Right.
But she says what she believes. She votes on what she believes in. She didn't vote president.
Right.
She voted no.
Yeah.
Because she's the only Palestinian member of Congress. She's been to the occupied territories.
Yeah.
AOC has not.
And it makes me wonder, too, and this is, again, pure speculation, do a lot of these decisions, are they out of, is it revenge? Because you didn't vote for what I did. And I mean, I don't know how they voted exactly, but it makes me wonder, is this like a get back for someone else not helping you out? And then it's like we're going tit for tat, essentially, because you didn't help me pass this bill or get, help when I needed it in, with the everything that was happening in Puerto Rico.
Well, it's because when your Julius Caesar is Bernie Sanders, who has been one of the most intransigent members of the Senate in government for generations. I mean, here's a man that would still actively campaign against Hillary Clinton after Hillary Clinton secured the nomination.
Right.
He never repudiated the quote-unquote Bernie bros that would go on Twitter, on social media, and just absolutely pillory anybody that disagreed at all with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I lay this to the feet of Bernie Sanders.
Interesting.
We'll talk more about this after the break. Davi, stick around.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing, and you always need to be sticking your fingers. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. You simply apply a discreet, easy-to-use sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger pricks. If you test your blood sugar at least 4 times per day and inject insulin at least 3 times per day, or use an insulin pump and have private insurance or Medicare, you might be eligible for a CGM with little or no cost to you. Call U.S. Medical Supply today for a free benefits check. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill Medicare or your insurance directly. Call now and say goodbye to finger pricks.
800-633-1378. 800-633-1378. 800-633-1378. That's 800-633-1378.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
The Robert Davi Show.
This is authentic.
Una furtiva lacrima negli occhi.
We are back, Davi. MG sitting in. John Merchant. Talking about the squad briefly. Holding the entire Democratic Party hostage. 6 members, pretty much, holding over 226 other members hostage. I mean, think of all the jobs that this $1.8 trillion infrastructure package would bring to a lot of working class districts.
Yep.
That would help a lot of working class people of color.
Yep.
Those that the squad, especially AOC, constantly talks about is her priority. And let's look at her district. AOC from Brooklyn.
Right.
Not originally. You know, not a native Brooklynite.
Yeah.
Of course not. No. No. Boston University grad, of course. Quite attractive.
Yes, very.
Brooklyn's not a working class neighborhood, folks.
No.
It might once have been.
No.
It might once have been one of the great communities in America that would allow working class people to have good jobs, to send their kids to a good college, not some fancy Ivy League college, maybe CCNY, great school.
Yeah.
Allow generations to move from the working class to the white collar jobs, to really climb that ladder. Brooklyn is the most gentrified city in the United States right now. And folks, I live in Highland Park. Look it up. It's the new Silver Lake.
Would you say it's more gentrified than San Francisco?
Good question. I think San Francisco has always been a cosmopolitan city.
Okay.
I think San Francisco has always had a lot of money.
That's fair.
Going back to the gold rush.
Yeah, true.
And then, people think that the tech boom started in 1996. That's not true. The tech boom's been going on since the late 60s.
Yeah.
In San Francisco and the adjacent communities. Housing prices in San Francisco are absolutely draconian.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different issue. I mean, we can talk about zoning restrictions, not allowing multifamily dwellings.
Yeah.
About protecting the suburbs.
What does that mean? I think you have a better chance of buying a house on the moon than you do getting a small condo in San Francisco.
A buddy of mine just bought a house northern Indiana, outside of Indianapolis. 2,000 square feet, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, nice land, well-manicured grounds, finished basement with a tiki bar.
Wow, okay.
190 grand. 190 grand. $805 a month at remortgage with 20% down.
Does he need a roommate?
What's that get you in LA? What does 190 grand get you in LA?
Let's see. That's that's one payment for a parking ticket in downtown. That probably gets you. That doesn't get you much of anything.
It gets you an RV that you can live in, that we see everywhere out here.
Yeah.
People living in RVs, people living in tents.
That same house out here has to go for, what are we talking?
800 grand.
One?
800 grand easy.
I was going to say at least one.
In the San Gabriel Valley, probably 800 grand.
Yeah.
Out in the San Fernando Valley, 1.1 million.
If you get to the coastline, we're looking at 1.5.
Santa Monica, 1.8.
Redondo Beach, Manhattan.
Malibu, 2.5.
2.5 easily.
San Francisco, city proper.
Yeah.
2 million.
Well, I mean, like a bachelor pad around here, where your bathroom is literally just separated by a curtain, is close to what, 2,000?
2,000, and then you get about a $500 HOA on top of that too.
Absolutely.
So I mean, we have a housing crisis going on right now.
It's major. Yeah.
For generations. I mean, we saw the bubble break in 2008, and and a lot of people said never again. They passed Glass-Steagall, all sorts of legislation to protect lenders.
Of course.
To really protect lenders from themselves. Because, I mean, that's what caused the financial crisis in 2008.
Yeah.
Was, number one, deregulation of the banks.
Yep.
Allowing commercial banks to also be investment banks. And number two, and it hurts me to say, you blame this on Slick Willie Clinton.
Oh, yeah, by far.
He put in all sorts of programs. He called it, the homeownership is the first step towards the American dream, and that's true, but not if you can't afford it.
And yeah.
Not if you can't afford it.
That was the setup.
And so the banks come in, they say, hey, cool, you want to guarantee these loans to, people that have FICO scores of 540?
Yep.
Just parenthetically, Mike G's FICO is 705.
Mine is 788. Been working on it. Yeah.
All right, I got some catching up to do. And they gave mortgages to people who could not pay their mortgages. People, because they were socialized that home ownership is the American dream. And so they would do whatever it takes to get that American dream.
Give you that signing bonus for first-time buyers.
Oh, yeah. They give you that teaser rate on your adjustable rate mortgage. No interest for the first 5 years.
Whatsoever.
And then that reset happens and your payment, which was maybe $900, is now $1,800.
Oh, yeah.
You default. Your house gets foreclosed.
Yep.
That goes out to a national database, and they say, oh, well, this house in this neighborhood foreclosed. Look at their neighbor.
Yeah.
Their neighbor's got a similar credit score. Their property's worth about the same thing. Now that house is going to be worth less because the person who owns it is more likely to default.
Yeah.
And you saw development, and then you saw all these empty units. What happened to those empty units? What happened to that oversupply that was there in 2008 that everybody was saying? That Warren Buffett said in 2008 that the problem with the American economy was an oversupply of housing, and that he said the best way to solve this oversupply was buy a bunch of empty houses and burn them down. Where is that oversupply? If we have this immense supply of vacant housing, why do we have 500,000 homeless people?
Doesn't make any sense. doesn't make any sense at all.
I don't want to be, some sort of harbinger of doom here. And there has been protections put in place, some of which have been rolled back during the Trump administration. But the chickens are going to come home to roost again in this housing market.
Yeah.
And we've already seen people who are leaving California in droves. Everybody's like, oh, it's because of Newsom and the mask mandates and politics. If cost of living and housing prices and stagnant wages are political, then so be it.
And it affected me personally. So was living in Pomona. Had a nice 350 square feet, 1-bedroom apartment, pretty nice downtown area, close to bars and everything. It's going up on my rent $100 basically every year.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty average, but it's like getting to the point to where it's like, well, there's no improvements. Like there's nothing that's happening around here that I'm benefiting from that's causing this hike. Found an apartment that was twice the size in Inglewood, 5 minutes away from the airport. Everything is beautiful. And then Inglewood, fortunately enough, doesn't have, rent control.
Yeah.
And so you get a bunch of slumlords out there that misuse property, or they'll convert like a large 2-story condo type setup into 2 different units.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like, they're racking up on the funds. Meanwhile, they can ask you to leave for no reason because now instead of charging you $1,050, I want to charge you $3,000 for this unit.
Yeah, we're gonna get some SC student here.
Yeah, we're gonna,
who's if they're gonna pay $80,000 a year for SC, they can afford the $24,000 on top of that for their apartment.
Exactly.
And now we're also seeing Inglewood being gentrified due to sports stadiums.
Everything. Yeah.
And full disclosure, I have relatives that own rental properties that rent them out. It's a great investment. It's a great retirement investment, a great retirement strategy.
But it's also abused because
it's abused. Yeah. But the slumlords you're talking about, they're the ones that aren't the mom and pop.
No, not at all.
Renters.
Nope.
They're the big corporations and hedge funds down there in Laguna Beach, the Ferrari driving dudes.
Oh yeah.
That own 10,000 units, the Donald Sterlings of the world.
Yep. In Gardena and all over. Yeah. Yep.
And so do they need to be regulated? Do there need to be some sort of legislation, perhaps where, nationwide rent control? A cap on how many units an individual or an organization could own? Because, folks, this is the single most issue. When I talk to people here in California, It's not about COVID.
Right.
It's not about CRT. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about homelessness and the housing crisis.
Yeah.
Davi, back in a minute.
Attention real estate investors. Do you need cash immediately? If you own one or multiple rental properties, you can use your equity to get cash out fast. The best part is we don't need tax returns or even a good credit score. At America's Loan Source, we are not a bank and we don't have bank rules. We make the decisions to loan you money, and there's no limit how much we can give you. Some clients have gotten as much as $500,000 or more within days. Use the money any way you want. If you own one rental property or 100 and COVID has left you in a cash crunch, we can help you turn your equity into fast cash. Call now for details and close in as little as 10 days and get the cash you need. 800-353-1760. 800-353-1760. 800-353-1760. That's 800-353-1760.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Ka'anapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master plan destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or golf fairway. Come experience Kaanapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Kaanapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit KaanapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
The Robert Davi Show.
Mike, you let me down, Mike. You're making me look bad. I thought we had an understanding. And all I expect is a little cooperation.
Sorry, Robert. I like that sounder. I hope, I always like to cooperate with Robert because he's a great man, a sweet man, a brilliant man, working on a special project right now, out on assignment, which he will let us know about shortly. It's going to really be, I think, blockbuster news.
Oh, yeah.
Housing prices, housing crisis, income inequality. These aren't far-left progressive ideas.
Not at all.
This isn't about defunding the police.
No.
This is about dignity. I remember when I got my first apartment when I was 20. Part-time student, wasn't getting any financial help from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Had a job, coffee shop. It was fun.
Yeah.
First apartment, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, $525 a month. I was making maybe $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
I was living high on the hog.
Right.
You're 19. And man, when you first get that first apartment that you're paying for all by yourself, which is your name on the lease, your name on the security deposit,
yeah,
your name on the check that you're writing every month. When you get home from a good day's work, John, good day's work, and you put that key in the door and you open that door and you walk into your apartment, your place with your stuff that you pay for with your money, that feels good.
Oh, it's different. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That feels real good.
Just leave your shoes wherever you want.
Yeah, walk around naked, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Turn on the TV, leave the lights on.
Yeah.
It's taken care of.
Man, I had the TV on top of the TV where I'd watch TV and I'd play video games.
Yeah.
It was great. That's the American dream.
Yeah.
Being self-sufficient.
Right.
Being able to afford.
Yeah.
Your own place. To pay for your own groceries.
And it opens opportunity for your taxes to be paid, for you to be able to, you know what I mean? Like, be responsible. Like, because I know that feeling as well. It's like, wow, like I feel that adult feeling.
Yeah, it's almost like you feel, it's like almost like a hallucinogenic experience.
Very much so.
Where you're like, you feel great.
Yeah.
And so that's what, when I drive by every day, when I drive by on the work, when I get on the 210 East to come out here, under the Figueroa Underpass.
Sure.
Tent, couch, tent, RV.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I mean, obviously, of course, you know, a lot of these people, these homeless people out here have mental health issues, substance abuse issues.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I see a lot of them, they look able-bodied. The one that hits me up outside the gas station all the time, he seems like he's got it together.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what goes on in someone's life? I mean, not to speak of the veterans out there, you know, suffering, the homeless veterans, which is just a travesty. PTSD.
Yeah.
All those people out there, all these millennials, these millennials that fought 2 of America's longest wars, that left blood, treasure, and limbs on the battlefield.
Yeah.
That you call soft.
Mm-hmm.
You call irresponsible.
Right.
No, folks. Worked with a lot of military people in my time. Gen Xers, even boomers, Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
These millennials, they fight like tigers, and they left it all out there. What do they come home to? They don't come home to a parade.
No.
They don't come home to adulation. They didn't get spat on like some did in the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
But they didn't get no ticker tape parade like the World War, like the greatest generation.
Yeah. And no longer are they coming back to affordable housing, because wasn't some of these projects that, you know, are now consumed by, you know, their low housing income, or low income housing rather, right now. But it was like, weren't they built and developed for veterans? It's deep. It's a rabbit hole.
All right, here's how it works. Okay, I'm a developer. I live in Laguna Beach.
Right.
I got a Bentley Continental. That's my daily driver. I got a Ferrari for the weekends. I got a trophy, Real Housewives of OC style wife. She's got the Porsche Macan.
Yeah.
I got a beautiful Laguna Beach house.
Okay.
Maybe even a nice beach house in Newport.
Yeah.
In my company, my hedge fund, who's sucked the working man dry for years, it's been quite nice to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the extra $10 million I got lying around, and I'm going to do a development, and I'm going to do it for the veterans. So this is what I'm going to do, John. I'm going to go to maybe Echo Park. Maybe I'll go to, Highland Park. Maybe I'll go to Eagle Rock, an emerging neighborhood where you can probably pick up an old, multi-unit pretty cheap. I'm going to tear it down. I'm going to not care about, having backhoes and bulldozers run around a working class neighborhood with kids and with elderly people all the time. We don't care. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply for some sort of government subsidy, some sort of government program that's allow us to construct low-income housing.
Yeah.
So what they do is they build a 14-unit luxury condominium complex. Maybe charge $3,235 for 12 of those units.
Right.
And I'll charge $1,200 for 2 of those units. Get a fat tax break. Get a fat subsidy. And you know what happens? That $1,200 unit, that stays vacant.
Yeah.
They don't rent it out. They'll let people see it. But they don't want the riffraff in their building.
Right.
They don't want some troubled vets. Who knows what they could do?
Yeah.
Along with, the dilettantes and studio execs that now live in that building. Moving on. All right. I'm getting too heated here.
I mean, it's
getting heated here. Heated.
Some hot takes.
This is what we do in the show. It's Davi's show. This is Davi's show, and I'm so glad that Mr. Davi's allowed me to sit in for him as he works on a very special project. Let's move on. This is going to be a tricky one to talk about. If anybody who's listening, this is a trigger warning for topics about sexual assault. Just want to put that out there. R. Kelly convicted on all charges, I believe. All charges but one, I believe. Massively ongoing trial. This has been a story, for years. I mean, John and I have talked about this off the air that, the allegations, both spoken of and both documented, sadly to say, have been available in the culture for a long time.
Yeah.
R. Kelly convicted. He now faces a sentence of 10 years to life, which seems like quite a bit of range.
It's wide range.
And Chuck D got in a little bit of hot water. Chuck D, who just for listeners who do not know, Chuck D, the founding member and frontman of the seminal hip hop group Public Enemy. You like Public Enemy?
Love them.
Yeah.
One of the introductions to hip hop for me. Very
important hip hop act. Has been, very highly influential. So Chuck D, he put out a tweet shortly after R. Kelly was convicted, and I shall read it verbatim. Begin. Abused in his youth and acted as an adult, Ike Turner served 18 months in prison. Rick James did similar time. Ike came out a changed, positive human being. How long should R. Kelly spend in prison? And does a USA system give a man a chance to change his world around? That did not go over well for Chuck D. There's an old adage out there, never tweet. I love Twitter. I don't tweet. Don't want to get in trouble.
It'll come back to you.
It will come back to you in kind.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are, and I would include myself, this is kind of a spurious comparison when you compare Ike Turner and even Rick James to R. Kelly, because R. Kelly, he's like the Harvey Weinstein of hip hop. There was like over 50 allegations. Allegations were terrible and salacious.
Yeah.
Multiple, witnesses came forward damning, and he's not only accused of, sexual assault, but also, rape, kidnapping, imprisonment of a minor,
sex trafficking.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, it's like the most salacious Netflix documentary I've ever seen. Yeah. And, a lot of this has been featured in, Escaping R. Kelly in different iterations.
Surviving R. Kelly, yeah. All of it.
So we've kind of seen this too, and Chris Brown was accused of beating up Rihanna, that, people would flock to them. And I don't know if it's like a cultural thing or if it's just about art. I mean, a lot of people will flock, like Woody Allen, for example.
Yeah.
Woody Allen, I mean, ugh. We've all seen the allegations. We've all seen the documentaries. We've read Ronan Farrow's book.
Yeah.
And people who have worked with Woody Allen and people who are great fans of his cinema will still defend him. So what do you think about, Chuck D and others still standing for R. Kelly, even though the evidence has been overwhelming?
I mean, I feel as though that there should be forgiveness within everything, right? Like, granted, there are certain things that are just sick and unforgivable, and you should, be penalized for that. But I also feel, as I agree with him, that there should be, a rehabilitation. Because this isn't. Is
he redeemable though? I mean, you've seen it. You've seen the allegations. You've seen the videos. Is that man redeemable?
I believe so. I believe that there is a high level of therapy, and and granted, it's a lot of gray area, and it can get very complicated. There's a lot of things that we still don't know, but I feel as though that he is redeemable. You know what I mean? And I think that it's easy to make
redeemable after perhaps maybe a long prison sentence.
Yeah, I mean, if you do 5 to 10 years, you know what I mean, which is pretty standard. You get charged with 10 or 15, and with good behavior, you get out a little bit earlier. But during that time, you're going through this therapeutic and life-changing, to try to alter your ways. And yeah, I feel as though that a lot of celebrities get forgiven because of their contributions with the arts. Put all of that aside, and you look at him as like, hey, here's this human being that had dealt with some things, because we did it with Robert Downey Jr. We did it with
Robert Downey Jr. That was more about substance abuse than actual sexual assault. I think that's a really good point, John. I don't think that the public at large is the one to raise judgment on whether or not one has been rehabilitated. I think that needs to be left to penologists, sociologists, psychologists, and others.
True.
And so we shall see. I think R. Kelly will be going to prison. Where he changes his life, if that happens, that's up to him, and that's up to those around him.
Yeah. Well,
John Merchant, thank you very much.
Appreciate you, man.
Robert Davi, thank you very much. See you guys soon. See you tomorrow. Take care. God bless America.